Man, I don't know. This series, hey, I can tell you Melinda Farrell does not like getting up every morning, and Melinda Farrell does not like seeing some substandard cricket from Australia, but Melinda Farrell does love seeing the West Indies play so well. What about you?
Lachlan McCurdy agrees with that general statement, I think. Yeah, I mean, just Lachlan McCurdy does not like seeing Australia lose, but maybe it's a good thing because Lachlan McCurdy does like Australia getting a reminder that maybe we need to take T20 cricket a bit more seriously.
Yeah, Melinda Farrell agrees with you. Now, let's get on with the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Timed Out Live with me, Melinda Farrell, and Lachlan McCurdy, talking about ourselves in the third person, as everybody clearly should in the world of cricket. Australia have lost the series. They've been thrashed through the third match in a row. This time, Chris Gale going absolutely bonkers, like we love to see him do, and like he has done for so many years. How are you holding up, Look?
Look, it was a tough morning. I was hopeful. I saw the team changes. I thought, okay, this is exciting. They're trying to change things up. Won the toss, batted first, something a bit different. But yeah, just kind of yet again wasn't the performance we needed.
As the French would say, la plus ça change, la plus c'est la même chose. And I don't know if I've even said that right. That was my high school French coming back. It was probably very, very, very bad. Now, if you are on the show live, please do send us any comments or questions in the chat. Hit the like bar. Do subscribe to us here at Sporting News Australia, because we'd love to have your company each and every time. Shall we get stuck into it?
Let's do it, Mel. I've got the timer ready.
Excellent. I hope it's something nice and uplifting for you after that.
And let's go. You get into it first.
Okay, so first topic up, we have, where are the contenders? Well, we spoke so much before this series about it being such a huge opportunity for all of these fringe players to really stand up and put their hand up to grab this golden opportunity with all the 7 players who are missing out. And, well, we kind of haven't really seen it. Mitch Marsh has done pretty well so far. That's what we do know. He didn't got out early today, so he didn't have the runs today. But other than that, I mean, Ryan Meredith got his chance today, and he did take, some wickets, but was very, very expensive. Other players coming in, yes, we did see a bit from Ashton Turner, and probably does deserve a bit more of a run. Alex Carey looked quite busy, but again, no runs. There's a clear problem with the failure at the top of the order. Losing early wickets, making a big impact on this. But so far, we've just yet to see anyone really go, yeah, that spot in the T20 World Cup is mine, and I want to take it. Even your mate, Dan Christian, who I know is on the shrine at the back of your little shoulder there, bless him. We haven't really seen Dan Christian do that either. So it's, I guess, just a bit disappointing to see that these opportunities are there. Having said that, there is a gulf between these two teams, a huge, huge cavern, and it's on full display at the moment.
Well, I have to agree. Let's start my 90 seconds now, because I'm going to need every single one of them. One of my concerns going into this series was kind of the balance of the squad. It looked very bowler heavy. Clearly, they wanted to see a few different bowlers and see what they had to show. But besides Riley Meredith, we've kind of stuck with the same bowling group for the first 3 T20 matches, and it leaves us really not much time to see what else is going on. I mean, we brought WIvAUS over, kind of exciting, but do we give him a run now into, I guess, essentially dead rubber games? Obviously, AJ Ty's there. We know what he can do, but again, might not get that much of a go. Jason Behrendorff as well, who I think is a fantastic white ball bowler. Is it time we just really shake things up to give these trio a bit of a go to see whether they can perform on that international level? Because I guess at the moment it's not working, but something that Moses Enriquez said post this match as well was their bowlers have been under pressure because their batters just haven't given them the platform to build on. I mean, looking in this series, the all-rounders was always going to be the key. We obviously had the 7-4 model. We had Christian, we had Marsh, we had Enriquez. But even today, Marsh got, I think, 1 over, and the other 2 didn't even get to bowl, which was a bit unusual. Agar was out with an injury. Ben McDermott was out with an injury, and it kind of forced Langer's hand into changes. And there are no other changes we can make now. Ashton Turner's probably going to play again. Alex Carey is probably going to play again. Matthew Wade's position is probably going to be under a bit of threat because really he just hasn't performed how we needed him to and be that rock at the top of the order. Yeah, it's disappointing overall.
Time is up.
Yeah.
Now, just to add on to that, I know I've already had my 90 seconds. It's all well and good for Moses and Ricks to say that about not enough runs puts the bowlers under pressure, but they did bowl first in the first 2 matches. Just going to point that out. So, that doesn't actually, hold.
But they should have won that first match. They should have won that first match, and ever since then, it has completely capitulated.
It has. Now, a couple of comments coming in. Hello to everyone joining us. Suhal Jan says, why are Australians not playing an off-spinner when there are 3 or 4 left-handers playing? Turner should have bowled today. It's a fair point in not having an off-spinner there. And I think Ashton Turner was probably – they probably were looking for him more with the bat today than they were with the ball. And that's possibly why. But you're right. It sort of comes down, I think, too, Suhail, to the other area where I think Australia are falling down is just their tactics and playing the game situation. And, the various matchups. They don't play enough international T20 cricket for them to really have worked out those specific matchups. And T20 is such a precise sport when it comes to plans and analytics that, those things came up. So I don't know why they're not playing them. I think they probably wanted to have a look at this new combination today, and we're hoping that Turner could shore up some batting a little bit, which they clearly need.
I mean, when you're looking at the spinners in Australia's limited overs formats at the moment, Nathan Lyon, I guess, is really the only off spinner. You've obviously got Glenn Maxwell there, who's an all-rounder who can bowl off spin. So I guess that's someone they would have probably picked and would have probably used full 4 overs of if he was playing in the West Indies. But yeah, it's just, I mean, I reckon they would have thought Zampa's Rongan would have a little bit more of an influence in this tour, but we just haven't seen Adam Zampa being able to get going at the moment. It's kind of been disappointing that he hasn't been able to get on top of kind of the West Indies batsmen. Obviously, Chris Gale absolutely pummeled him for 3 sixes in a row in one of his overs today. Looking at the rest of the team, there's not really anyone they can bring in there. I agree with you. I don't think Ashton Turner is going to be getting a bowl this series. This isn't what he's there for. Obviously you've got Agar to come back spinning into the left-hander. Yeah, I mean, looking at that team, there's really no one else who's turning the ball the other way. And I guess that is something you can look at and go, should they have picked an off-spinner? Because you've got Sweps in there as well. He's going to be doing the same as Zampa. So, yeah, that could have been a bit of a team selection issue there.
Gopal B has come in with a comment. That was truly pathetic Oz performance. Don't hold back. Tell us what you really think, Gopal. I don't see how this team is a contender in 2 months, even adding the 3-4 players who sat out. Well, 7 players all up, but they've got a long way to go. And I think the fear is too that even though you bring in 3-4 players, I'm just not sure of that yet. We're still early in the tour, 3 matches away, but they've now got 7 matches to figure out what their team is. All that talk about Australia need a finisher and working out who the specialised finisher could be. At the moment, I think they need a team, and they need to work out what their best team is before you even get to think about who's going to be their finisher. That's not the only piece missing from the Australian team puzzle.
I definitely agree. Look, the middle order is the key problem. I mean, obviously Finch and Wade at the moment at the top. Warner's going to come in there. I think that's without question. But Finch and Wade both getting starts in various games, but just not going on with it. That's kind of what you expect from an opener in T20 cricket. They're kind of setting the platform, trying to power through the power play, and they just kind of haven't done that. So, look, Finch and Wade can kind of be excused because they've got that role they've got to do. But beyond that, you've got essentially 4 or 5 players whose job it is to build that innings, to make sure that Australia see out their 20 overs, which they finally did today, which was good to see. But, yeah, it was just concerning how cheaply some of the wickets fell and that we just weren't able to keep the strike rate up. That as soon as we kind of lost a couple of wickets, we went back into our shell and almost played more one-day cricket in terms of really trying to consolidate the start and look to play out the innings, whereas in T20 cricket, you've got to find that balance. And at the moment, this team just isn't doing that.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring in one more comment now because I have to, because it's Chris Danks, who's actually our boss, So I'm going to read this out and let you answer it, Lockie, because I don't want to get in trouble. Danksy says, Australia clearly prioritise the longer forms, reaping what they sow, perhaps. Look, he's put reaping what the sow, perhaps. Come on, bit of subbing on your comments, please, Mr. Danks.
No comment.
If you had the choice, would you rather Australia win the Ashes or the T20 World Cup this year?
Both. They should be. They have the team, but in all seriousness, they have the team that should be able to compete at both. When you look at the Test team, there's at least 5-6 players there who aren't involved in T20 cricket. There's a lot of talk about the English format of picking teams and horses for courses and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, Australia has essentially been doing the same for the last 2 or 3 years. You look at your standard 3 format players like your Warners, your Starks, your Steve Smiths, who can play essentially all formats. But then you throw in your T20 specialists like your Maxwell, like your Stoinis, like your Mitch Marshes as well. And then you've obviously got your Wades as well, who will become more T20 players. We've got a team who essentially are T20 specialists, who are the best in Australia at doing it. But they just, because they haven't been able to get that experience up and they haven't been able to establish themselves in the international T20 cricket scene, they just can't get a run of results together. And I guess it is because it isn't prioritized, but at the same time, these players, they know what they should be doing and they have the ability to be both playing well at the T20 World Cup and at the Ashes. If I had to pick one, I'm still picking the Ashes because I'm a traditionalist in that purest sense, but they should be able to win both.
I mean, I agree with Chris in that, yes, they have clearly prioritized Test cricket, and it is hard to actually be great at everything else. Probably New Zealand and India have been the best at, the 3 formats, arguably, over the past sort of couple of years. But they've made it clear. Aaron Finch has pointed out, no management for Test cricket. They have never won the T20 World Cup ever. They're hosting one in Australia next year. So there is a real focus on T20 cricket in the next year. So, it's difficult to do. They've invested a lot into the Big Bash. They do send their players overseas to tournaments like the IPL. But at the moment, maybe it reflects on how T20 internationals are treated as well, in just, how do you use those to build for a tournament? Anyway, next topic, time for our next topic. Thank you, Chris Danks. That was an absolutely wonderful point from you, possibly the best point that has ever been made. Next topic up, Gale for Starcher Timer. Now, it is pretty amazing, isn't it? Now, he obviously hadn't batted so well. He hasn't batted so well for a while. I don't think he's scored a half century in T20 cricket since 2016, perhaps. He lost his place in that West Indies side. He's come back. He didn't bat so well in the first 2 games. I thought a real point of difference today was the Gale shuffle was back. He was sort of shuffling around the crease. He got his foot movement back, which we mentioned in the previous show about how sort of the foot movement had gone. Well, it came back for this. He took them on, and we saw the results. To get 14,000 runs in T20 cricket, miles ahead, nearly 4,000 or 3,500 ahead of Kieran Pollard, who's next. That is amazing in a format where they don't face that many balls. So it just cements, if anything else, his position at the top of the tree in so many ways when it comes to T20 batting. And he interestingly spoke after the game about Kieran Pollard, who is injured, so not captaining in this series so far. Well, he gave him a real pep talk. It sounds like he gave him a bit of a kick up the butt, and sort of, but also reminded him about what he brings. And Chris Gale said that made a real difference to him today, in that having that chat from Kieran Pollard. So maybe that's the key. He needs a good pep talk. He's found his footwork, and he's scored 14,000 runs.
Well, it's really quite remarkable the way the Aussies just kind of bowled into his strike zones a bit today. Like I thought the dismissal, the ball that Meredith bowled to get him out was kind of the perfect use of, okay, that's a good slower ball, good variation. And I was just so surprised we didn't kind of see more of that. But looking at the innings, 67 off 38 balls, 7 sixes, which funnily enough is almost the same amount of sixes that Australia have hit this entire series. One stat that I do want to bring up, the West Indies have hit 36s throughout the first 3 matches. Australia have only hit 11. So it kind of shows that they just are struggling to clear the rope. And at the same time, the West Indies are doing it so well. I mean, yeah, the foot movement was something that I identified as well, that you kind of look at Gale and go, that's when you know he's in the zone. When he's 41, he's not going to be moving around as well as he did in his prime. But when he gets that little shuffle going again, you can tell he's got his eye in. And especially that over off Zampa that we mentioned earlier, 3 consecutive sixes into the wind over sort of mid-wicket. That was quite remarkable. And he was hitting them so sweetly. Yeah, look, there's not much you can do when he's in that sort of form, as Moses Enriquez kind of admitted that they felt that because they didn't give their bowlers enough to bowl with, they fell under pressure and kind of fell into Gale's hitting zones. I mean, whether that's the case or they just need to vary things up a little bit more, who knows, but it could be a long series for the Aussie bowlers.
Yes, it certainly could. And not only that, the age of... Thank you. At the age of 41, is he in that direct hit that almost ended in a run out for Matthew Wade as well. So
Yeah.
he can still got his eye in the field. Just bringing up a couple of comments there. Send us any questions, of course, you like in the live chat or any comments. There are a couple of comments there from Shaif Hassan saying, I will see Australia whitewash 5-0. You might see Australia whitewashed 5-0. That's a very distinct possibility. And Australia, poor batting lineup. Yeah, well.
Yep.
Yep, it's pretty hard to really disagree or say too much more about that, because you're bang on. It has been very poor overall. Now, our next topic, timed out.
Oh, just quickly, we've got one more comment on the Gale topic from Suhail that's just come in about what do you think Gale's weakness is if you're opening the bowling to him? What do you think the Australian bowlers should be doing if they're coming up against a Gale who's in this sort of form?
He bounces first up. I mean, he kind of deposited some of those. If you notice in that first over that Josh Hazlewood bowled to him, he actually bowled some short of a length deliveries. They weren't bounces, but they were short of a length. And the way he pulled those so powerfully first up, he ended up forcing them to change the field and have 2 men on the boundary, I think deep mid-wicket and deep backward square leg. So there was... Yeah, maybe bounces. I don't know what. I mean, he scored 14,000 T20 runs, so he doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, I think, when he's on, and maybe that's the key with Gale too. It's when he's on or when he's off, but they're going to have to try something. It was a slower ball in the end that got him, and maybe maybe that's it too. If you can just negate his moving around the crease as much as you can and maybe bring out a surprise slower ball. Will that work? I don't know. Well, they're going to have to get someone with more tactical nous than me. If they're relying on me to tell them how to bowl to Chris Gale, we're in really big trouble.
Putting on a cricket captaincy hat, I liked in the first 2 matchups the matchup with Mitch Marsh and Chris Gale. I thought Mitch Marsh had kind of figured out a nice line coming over the wicket, kind of moving the ball away a little bit, and obviously found the inside edge and won and got his wicket in that second T20. I thought they might have turned to that a bit earlier instead of like persisting with Zampa a little bit more, persisting with sort of Riley Meredith. But yeah, it is just really interesting that they just couldn't figure it out. And he hadn't troubled the Aussies in the last 2 T20s at all. And they kind of, whether it was a bit of complacency, whether they kind of went, all right, well, we'll get his wicket. We've just got to start looking towards Puran. We've got to start looking towards Andre Russell, Dwayne Bravo. How do we get them out? And they kind of forgot about, well, hang on, we got to get the universal boss out first.
Yeah, it's and once the thing is, when he's on, he's on. And there's plenty of good bowling lineups that have been taken apart by him in world cricket.
Yes.
Let's face it. So thank you, Suhail. I'm glad that you found that amusing. I see a couple of little smiley emojis there. Well done. And finally, is that it for our topics?
No, we got one more. We got the return of Stark.
Let's do it. Oh, of course. Look, one positive, one slight positive. Stark bounces back. I'll let you go first, Lockie.
All right, I'll jump into this. Obviously, we saw a much improved performance from Mitch Stark today, finished with figures of 1 for 15 off his 4 overs. Probably should have been less, but a bit of a loose ball after a bit of a review on a run out. Saw him sort of just positive from 4. So, yeah, definitely really good to see him bouncing back. First wicket of the series, which was really nice. Again, kind of a mistimed shot, but you've still got to bowl the ball there. I think the one thing that we both commented on and both saw was that there was a little bit more swing from Stark there for some of his deliveries. He was pitching the ball up a little bit more and finding that movement, especially in the air. A couple of times that they wasted reviews in LBWs that, I don't know, just for me, clearly looked like they were going down leg. But again, you got to try them just in case. But yeah, for the most part, he looked like he was landing those Yorkers more nicely. It looked like, as I said, the swing was getting better. And yeah, I mean, it's the sort of Stark that I think we need to see a bit more of. I think he was buoyed by the inclusion of Riley Meredith, having someone else there whose main goal is supreme pace, essentially, knowing that he's not the only one that's going to be relied on to kind of shake up the batters is key. Having Riley Meredith there, it means he can kind of focus a bit more on that line and length and swing. And while Riley Meredith, I thought, even though he got carted around a bit, he did bowl well, and I think we'll see a bit more of him in the matches to come for the most part. Yeah. I mean, 8 more seconds. What else can I say? Stark, he might get rested these next 2 matches now, but I think we've seen the best of him.
Okay, well, I don't think they'll rest him, because I think that the thing with Mitchell Stark is that he's been saying he wanted to get into the T20 rhythm in international cricket. So now that he's had an economical, he gave up 15 runs in 4 overs. I think that now that he seems to have got a bit of that, I think they'd like to let him keep going with it and just see if he can sort of continue that. So yeah, it was much improved, right? I thought he was swinging it a bit more early. We saw a really good Yorker up early as well, which was very pleasing. Maybe that is a way to negate some of Gale's early on if he's not moving his feet as much right from the start. But it's a really interesting test, I think, not just for Mitchell Stark, but for Josh Hazlewood. So we saw Hazlewood bowl economically in the first match, where they kind of stayed in their crease a bit more. Now they've seemed to have really figured out Josh Hazlewood moving around, putting pressure back on him. Whereas for Stark, I do think he kind of found his groove a little bit more and used that bit of swing that was available while it was there. So maybe that's a thing for him. It was certainly really positive. I still don't think that we quite know what Australia's best, spend a lot of time talking about the batting lineup. I don't think we know what Australia's best bowling lineup is. And they've gone this different route. They've changed it up. So it's not going to be, the same number of batters, bowlers. Got a lot to work out, but at least for Stark, that's positive.
Definitely. I mean, there was one point there where we saw him holding his back a little bit, so hopefully there's no concerns there or anything. I think he got through his spell all right, so I don't think it should be an issue. But, yeah, look, as long as he can continue to perform like that, he should be in this side. But I guess that's the thing. Australia's got a depth of fast bowlers that if enough people aren't taking their chances, there are other people there who will step up.
Well, will they step up? That is the big question now that the series has been lost. There is a huge gap between these two sides. I see Sohail's jumped in with another comment saying Stark would clean up tailenders with his Yorkers a few years back, but has lost that thing over time now. Yeah, that has been something with his, you're right, he has had a thing for taking tail end wickets with those Yorkers. I think a few more have figured him out a bit, but it's hard to figure out someone who's bowling Yorkers at 150 odd kilometres an hour, isn't it? That's always going to be something that's really difficult to combat, particularly if you're a tail ender. Also, he's not getting the benefit of reverse as well in white ball cricket. He's still, one of Australia's best white ball bowlers, though. Let's not forget that. So let us see what happens. We've got 2 more matches coming up in this series, and I guess time for Australia really to focus and look at what they can do with it from here on in, because the series is gone and now it's all ahead of them. You're looking forward to the next 2 matches, Lockie?
I am. I mean, the Aussies are staring down the barrel of a very unwanted record. I think they've played about 52 T20 series since the inception of the format. Never once have they lost more than 3 matches in a single 2-team series. So most recently, of course, they lost to New Zealand 3-2 in that 5-match series. But yeah, there's been 4 4 series in total where they've lost 3 matches. There have been none where they have lost 4 or more. So
wow.
unless something changes dramatically, it's going to be a very unwanted record in this tour.
Well, we shall find out. So plenty of interesting things to look forward to see if any players will stand up and if they can turn their fortunes around and salvage something from this T20 series. We will be back after the next match, the 4th match of the series, in a couple of days in St. Lucia. Until then, this is Melinda Farrell saying goodbye from Melinda Farrell and Lachlan
McCurdy saying goodbye for Lachlan McCurdy.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.